Good morning and welcome to Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Please, as you're joining us, don't forget to go and subscribe to Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. This is going to be a broadcast here with beg your pardon, with we just want to bring the cost of living expenses and things up for you guys to see. So let us have a look at this quickly. Make sure you got it right. Cost of governance should be drastically reduced. Dele Farotimi Auwal. So, anyways, by Channels News. So I wanted to just really talk about that. It should be about a half an hour or so. So I might interject, but I'll probably let us watch it all so we can see what they're talking about, and it's very important for us to really understand it as a whole. So please do watch this broadcast, and let us begin. Second, here we go. Okay, let us begin.
Approval. But the basic salary review has led to heated debates from a section of the public who feel the remuneration package for political office holders is unfair and insensitive in the face of current economic realities. The RMAFC chairman, Muhammad Shehu, said the move was in line with the provision of paragraph 2D of part 1 of the third schedule of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic as amended. Shehu said the last review of the remuneration was carried out in 2007, which culminated into, quote, certain political, public, and judicial officers hold the Salary and Allowances Amendment Act 2008. Our correspondent, Bega Shiru, tells us more.
With the nation still at a gripping point after the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy, analysts say the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission's approved review of political office holders' annual basic salary by 114% completely defies the overriding need to reduce the cost of governance. The RMAFC is saddled with the responsibility of determining the remuneration that's appropriate for political office holders, including the President, Vice President, Governors, Deputy Governors, Ministers, Commissioners, Special Advisors, Legislators, and the holders of the offices as mentioned in Section 84 and 124 of this Constitution. On the flip side, some have argued that the review of the political office holders' remuneration is long overdue, with the last implementation done in 2008. But this proposal seems somewhat disturbing for the optics, as some argue that the take-home allowances and perks of the political office holders is too outrageous compared to the national minimum wage. Meanwhile, controversies have been trailing the announcement of the review of the public office holders' remuneration. Arise News got in touch with the chairman RMAFC, Mr. Shehu Mohammed, who explained that the commission is only reviewing the annual basic salary, which was last reviewed 15 years ago.
I don't think the National Assembly and senators earn an outrageous amount of money. I've said this publicly. The salary of a senator or member of House of Reps is about, senator is about $1 million. $1 million
Are
a
you
little
talking about
bit.
the basic salary or the total package?
Basic salary and allowances. However, there is what they call operating funds, for running the office. If you are elected senator representing Lagos West, for instance, you have to have a constituency office. I don't know how many in your state. You have to hire some people to man that office. You have to have equipments, computers and others, and depending upon the size of your constituency. Now, in other societies, that has nothing to do with the senator. There is already a structure whereby the system takes care of all those things and provided. It's still cost of governance. But here, from what I understand the National Assembly did, they monetize this and they give the senator that amount of money, and at the end of the year, I think he retires it by bringing receipts and other things. So Nigerians can advocate for take your basic salary and take your allowances, but leave the issue of constituency offices workers in the constituency office, equipments and others. Leave it to the structure of the system.
For others,
However, with the current federal government and Labour meeting on new wage still ongoing, Nigerian workers are wondering if Labour will not ask for more. Joining us now to discuss the latest development amid Tinubu's effort to revive Nigeria's economy is Dele Farotimi, a lawyer, and in our Abuja studio is Auwal Rafsanjani, Executive Director at Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLA. It's great to have you both on the show. Let's go straight to it. I mean, what's your reaction to this recommendation, as it is, because it's not gotten approval yet, and we must insist on that? What's your reaction to this?
Well, there is a proverb that I've been heard used on past occasions, and it's the one that says that the diarrhea of the monkey is not the business of the baboon. And there is nowhere where this comes home better than in the Nigerian space. A government says that it has removed fuel subsidy. The price of fuel increases by about 300%. Not a dime has been added to the salary of public sector workers. Nothing has been done to offer any sort of palliatives to the people. The Revenue Mobilization Committee, the gentleman that just spoke, is doing what he is statutorily empowered to do. But in the midst of all of these, we must look at the optics. The people are being told to offer more and more sacrifices, but those who purport to rule us continue to enjoy perks that we are not even allowed to know. The gentleman who just spoke now makes clear that what he is doing is what he's statutorily asked to do, fix allowances, and from what he said, only about ₦1 million or thereabout is meant to be going to the senator. But of course, we all know, because we don't know, and we are asked to fill in the gap because of the opaqueness of the finances of the Nigerian government, and particularly the legislators. Nobody knows exactly what is being taken home at the end of the day, but we do know that with alacrity, the system has responded and is about to increase the emoluments of these men by 114%. Question is, how long will the people continue to support a system that obviously does not feel the pain of their affliction, does not care in any way, shape, or form for their welfare, but increasingly ensures that those who are meant to sacrifice and rule and lead are the ones who are kept in comfort and in luxury? At the end of the day, it's up to the people, but I believe that this is not good. It's not good optics at all, not in this season. It's very bad.
Mr. Rafsanjani, what's your take on this? Does it make this fight and people suffering, you know, for a better Nigeria, does it make it worth the while, really? When you hear things like this?
Well, actually, what I expected them to do is to reverse it, you know, the other way around, is to actually cut down more on the salaries and allowances of the political office holders. This is because when you look at the economy, we cannot afford to be borrowing money to pay these flamboyant jumbo salary and allowances. We all know, and that is why you see the intensity of political violence in this country is in the increase, because people know that when they kill, when they, you know, prostrate electoral transparency, they get in there, or they even procure and buy the appointment, they will be getting this kind of lucrative money and privileges. Look, it's not only this money thing. There are other privileges that they have, like all of them. Before you know, they will all get plot of land in Abuja. It doesn't matter whether they have gotten before as a senator or as a House of Rep member or as you know, minister or as a DG, they will still get under this arrangement, because every 4 years you have new set of lucrative benefits that come to the political office holders. So it's not just the salary that they are getting. And you remember, many of them, they have enacted very ridiculous law that makes them to be perpetually collecting pension and gratuity. So you serve for 4 years, or for maximum of 8 years as a governor, and you legislate a law to be collecting permanent pension and gratuity, including changing of cars, including medical trip to abroad, including taking care of your concubines. I mean, this is not absolutely operationable. This is absolutely not affordable because the economy cannot afford that. Secondly, you are going to widen the inequality in the society. One has to say, pay us reasonable amounts to survive as lecturers. You pick hole, you attack them, you blackmail them, you abuse them. One medical doctor say, please improve our condition of service. You tell them they should leave the country or they should leave the work. One security, people who are supposed to be taken care of, when they demand for improved in service condition, you punish them and, in fact, take harsh decision on them. But politician, the only credential you have is to find yourself as either House of Rep member or as a senator or as a political appointee or as a local government chairman or as president or vice president or minister. You have an unfiltered access to public resources without reflecting the fact that a lot of people, a lot of states cannot even afford to meet the 30,000 minimum wage. And that is why some states have left, workers without salary for 6 months, for 1 year. The case of Benue is in mind. The governor Otum left huge, debt for the state, without clearing the salaries of workers there. But the political appointees of his, state and Wike and all of them, almost 90, the entire 39, the entire governors in the whole countries, they have done the same thing. They have not only perpetuated legal framework to be getting this money, but they have also squandered and packed a lot of things that are meant for the public. So I think it is important, even though the revenue mobilization, they have the mandate to review. The review may not necessarily go up. It can also go down, because if the citizens are told to make sacrifice, they are told to bear the hardship created by the same political elite. I wonder why the elite, where is their own sacrifice? Where is the sacrifice of this political elite? Can they, if they are all well-to-do, they have something doing before they come to politics, why can't they make that contribution to Nigeria to say, look, I have donated my own salary, or I am going to make sure that I do X, Y, Z. But you don't see that. What you see is increase in terms of scrambling the national resources. They do it through many ways. They either grab the contract, which government does not follow due process because we have public procurement law and it's not to be respected. You have beneficial ownership, register. You do not know who owns X, Y, Z, but they will be giving themselves tax waiver and tax holiday on top of all this, and they will grab the land in Abuja and leaving the Nigerians and even the original inhabitants, rendering them landless without where to stay. I think the injustice perpetuated by political class is enough.
Yes, we'll talk about the injustice. We're going to break it down a bit further. And thank you very much. It's interesting that you give the perspective that the RMAFC, in reviewing the salaries of political office holders, do not have to review up. They can actually review down. But in the Nigerian context, we've hardly seen a review downward, except as with the previous immediate past president and vice president who voluntarily chose to take a wage slash, a basic wage slash. But let me come back to the studio, and then this question will also be posed to you. Mr. Farotimi, in justification of the RMAFC's position, they've said that this decision wasn't made under this, or didn't start under this tenure. Now, if you recall, in February, they had a one-day retreat where they had zonal consultations with regards to the salary review. And also, in their defense, this review hasn't happened since 2007. 16 years ago. So in light of current realities, perhaps it is justified to also consider public office holders who are also Nigerians. And bear in mind that they don't have anything to do with the minimum wage. They don't determine that. This is their own remit, and they are working according to their own remit. What would you have to say about that? And then to Mr. Rafsanjani, I'd like to ask you, talking about minimum wage, Labour has asked at the negotiation table for a review upwards of the minimum wage to 200,000 naira. Of course, this has been met with a lot of skepticism, and analysis. However, since the public office holders, or according to RMAFC, they're recommending a 114% increase, do you think Labour would then be justified to push for their own increment, in line with this? Maybe 200,000 is even too low. Maybe we should start to look at a bit more reflective of our society. Let me come to you, Mr. Farotimi, first of all.
Well, I think the first thing we need to understand is this. What is the purpose of government? If the purpose of government is the welfare of the people, who you would ordinarily refer to as citizens, then none of these really makes sense. If the purpose of government is to serve the people, we shouldn't be wondering exactly how much our legislators, whether that be the House of Reps or any public officer for that matter, we should not be wondering exactly how much they are earning. The level of covering the complete darkness as to how much is the take-home pay of a public official, especially an elected one, speaks to the kind of society we have built, what sort of politicians, quote and unquote, we have evolved, who do not even feel the affliction of the people. I would imagine that they themselves should feel scandalized in this movement. I am not speaking to the legal correctness of what has been done, but it should concern us that in this movement where people are being taken into multifaceted level of poverty, they can hardly feed, they have no access to health care, good roads have become non-existent, people can barely travel from one point to the other. The last thing we should be discussing is anything that suggests an upward review of any sort of reward for those who have brought us here. So yes, this government did not start this. Legal or illegal, I'm not going to talk to that, but this regime is not responsible for this. But the people in the last regime and the people in this regime, government is a continuum. Yes. The APC has ruined this country consistently for the last 8 years. This is the 9th of those years. So even though it might have blamed its twin brother, the PDP, for the preceding 16 years, it has to own the last 8 years. And no matter how you dice this, at the end of the day, when you look at where we are as a people 8 years ago and where we are today, is a world apart. Our world is practically falling apart, and these are the people responsible. No matter how much they want to dice this, they are responsible. For anyone to even now think that it's a good idea to be talking about an increment of any sort in the emolument of persons whose emoluments are already opaque enough is sickening to even comprehend. So we might want to look at it as an isolated issue, but we will be wrong. It should be looked at more as an issue that concerns the entirety of the society itself. What kind of society, what kind of people think it is all right to be talking about an upward review? These are people who should voluntarily on their own not only declare what it is that they are taking that we do not know, but even begin to talk about cutting the cost of governance drastically. So where we are today, that we are even discussing this like it's some sort of subject that should be discussed by rational beings, is suggestive of the level of putrefaction that are set into our society. It's not a subject we should be discussing at this time, in this situation. It shows the insensitivity of the ruling class that we even consider something as sickening as this. This is not the time. This is not even about partisan politics again. It's about the humanity of the person you call a Nigerian. How in the world do you go about the business of even talking, not even suggesting it? There is even been...
All right, okay, so you use the word insensitive. ASUP have also described that as insensitive. Mr. Rafsanjani, Labour have also said it's provocative. What's your take on this with regards to the ask of Labour following the fuel subsidy removal, that the minimum wage for Nigerian workers to be 200,000 naira in light of this recent development?
You know, the political class or the ruling class in Nigeria, they are not ashamed to continue to perpetuate suffering on the ordinary Nigerians. They are happy. They always, they are always happy because they have their way. They package themselves in a manner that they will perpetually continue to emasculate public taxpayers' money, rewarding their inaction and action in this country. And that is why many of them will roll down policies and programs that only looked very self-centered policies, without caring the ordinary person. The other, the other leaders in the last regime, you've seen how they, maltreated or they handle issues of labor, issues of ASU. In fact, they were mocking and even abusing ASU for demanding an improved condition of service and education generally. But because they have packaged themselves, many of them, they have packaged their children abroad using public taxpayers' money. They have taken care of, even when they have malaria, they will carry business class or first class and go abroad with public taxpayers' money. So they don't really care, and that is why the chaos, that is why the inequality is increasing. And it is important that the Bola Tinubu administration understand this sensitive issue, to, even though it's being proposed, to actually tell the revenue mobilization to say, look, at this material time, it will be difficult for us to approve this. So I am calling on the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in the interest on peace, stability, and also fairness and justice. They should forget about this increase of this political appointee and elected official salaries. If the political class had been very serious about this country, they would have made conditions for us to have industries, manufacturing that will make Nigerians to be more productive, more useful, and the nation will get more income. And with a lot of job coming from the private sector, you do not need to worry yourself much about this. But because they have connived to kill, the instrument that will enable us to have more vibrant factories and manufacturing, they have killed everything. And that is why you see a lot of Nigerians have no job. They have been pushed to do so many dirty jobs that they are not supposed to go. When you go abroad, many Nigerians who have masters, they have been reduced to doing domestic work. Many, of course, other Nigerians, they also manage to find better job there. But out there, when you go, you see a lot of competent, qualified Nigerians that are supposed to be contributing to our nation, but they have been pushed out of frustration. They have been pushed out of this country to go and do job just for them to survive. I think it is important that elite in this country understand that the only way this democracy can be durable and survive is when they do the right thing, and when they do the fairness, and when they do the right policies and legal framework, and implemented them in a manner that can get Nigerians out of this misery of poverty, misery of insecurity, which they have also created. Because when they steal the resources that is meant for security and safety, including supporting or giving adequate resources for the personnel in the security sector, they are creating conditions for Nigerians to be hopeless and not even have confidence in their country. Therefore, I am calling on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu not to approve this proposal, because Nigeria cannot be a perpetual debt collector. Last regime of Buhari had, made useless of this country by every time going to go and borrow money, and not even in accordance with the fiscal responsibility law. So therefore, we cannot come back now again and start borrowing to pay people who are already overpaid. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you look at some of the governors in the National Assembly, they have already legislated permanent pension and gratuity for themselves. And many of them, the civilian package they even collect is enough to pay workers for many years. I think we need to be fair and need to be just, and we should consider leadership as a trust. We cannot just use political appointment or political opportunity that the elite have to be only looking for yourself and leaving the millions of Nigerians in misery, poverty, hunger, and starvation. I think God will even ask them why this thing. Definitely, God will interrogate this kind of thing. If they think Nigerians should not, interrogate, I think many Nigerians believe in the hereafter. Many Nigerians believe in God. They should always put God and pity and mercy Nigerians who cannot afford ordinary medication in hospital. The services are not there. In other places where you have this kind of thing, you will see so many things functioning. Minimum wage in Nigeria cannot be paid by many states in this country. And now when you look at the reality, what will, for example, even 100,000 do you? You pay house rent from there. You pay hospital. You pay children's school fees. You pay, the food that you consume. You do a lot of things. You close yourself. All with this is the reason why even the corruption itself is being promoted as a result of imbalances in the incomes and productivity. Let the government ensure more productivity in the social sectors and services, and let people earn legitimate income that can take care of them, not to come and create opportunity for more political violence in this country and for people to be paying to get appointment, because they are paying to buy appointment.
Can you hear me? I was just telling you that your point was already well made. You were beginning to say the same thing over and over again. Now, quickly, let me start with you, Dele Farotimi. Two quick things for you. The first is, will it have made a difference if this proposal by the RMAFC is only for judicial officers? Because originally, when this whole debate started, it was meant only for judicial officers. In fact, it was a proposal by the NBA. But now the RMAFC, responding to it, has added public office holders to it. Will it have been, will your reaction have been different if it was just judicial officers, who, as we know, are victims of poor welfare, poor conditions of service, and all of that? And then, of course, you are a Labour Party man. To take the thing beyond the RMAFC, do you still have hope? With the momentum that Tinubu has generated, that anything magical will happen to displace him or to change anything in any way. I mean, you are a student of real politics. And then Rafsanjani, let me come back to you. I mean, you are a civil society person. Just a general comment on how the Tinubu administration has been carrying on in terms of how we've seen one policy after another, suspension of the CBN governor, suspension of the EFCC, appointments, and now we are told that we are looking for foreign direct investments in France that will come almost immediately because of policies that are on the ground. Let's start with Dele Farotimi.
I am all for anything that guarantees the independence of the judiciary. I've had a lot to say about the judiciary. It will not, it's not the time to repeat any of that. But truth is that increasing the remuneration of any public officer, particularly those like the judicial officers who ordinarily shouldn't even be seen in public spaces, talk less of have additional places where they could augment their income. If we're saying they shouldn't be corrupt, then we must, of course, be willing to pay them living wages. I would have zero problem with paying judicial officers what I believe to be living wages. So if their remuneration were to have been increased in isolation to that of people whose actual remuneration are unknown to Nigerians, then I wouldn't have anything to say against that. I would only have asked that by the same token that judicial officers would have had their salaries and emoluments increased, people in the hospitals, people in schools, public officers, more or less civil servants, those who are not political office holders should equally enjoy the same benefit. When you now speak to the matter in court in passing, let me say this. The judiciary is meant to be the last hope of the common man. We are all here, and we were here in Nigeria on the 25th of February. The judiciary will be given adequate evidence of what transpired on that day. They also live in this society. It is up to them to decide how they wish to be remembered. I have already said, I have zero trust or hope in the Nigerian judiciary. I'm on record as having said that multiple times. But it is not for the Labour Party or any other party before the judiciary to hope that the judiciary will do the right thing. It is for them to put an abundance of evidence before the judiciary and before the world. And it is then for the judiciary to decide whether it is indeed the last hope of the common man or not. Now, to speak to the momentum being gathered by the Tinubu administration, quote and unquote, let me first of all remind us that unilaterally, without thought, and without having made any preparation before or after, removing the subsidy, quote and unquote, on petrol is not momentum. Sectional appointments that tend to pander to ethnic basis and loyalty, those are not momentum. The truth has a way of catching up with all of us. Now, somebody has gone off to Spain to go and bring the investors from the moon. Those are not momentums. Eventually, when the tire hits the road and people begin to understand just exactly how divorced from reality those who purport to rule Nigeria are, those who are already looking at situations and think that the only thing to be thinking about in this moment are increases in political office holders' salary, eventually, the people, whether they were APC members, PDP members, Labour Party members, when they find that when they get to the filling station, nobody demands their party affiliation. When they get to the market, nobody is asking whether Yachinedu is paying more or less than the other. The commonalities of their afflictions will become obvious to them, and they should by then begin to understand that this is not about ethnicity, it's not about political affiliation even. It is about the common good and the common interest. Those who care about common good focuses on what is best for all, not on what is good for a section. Any young Nigerian below the age of 30 that you recruit in a job in Nigeria today is already processing some visa or the other out of Nigeria. They're running away. So what hope is being renewed? Momentum will soon find momentum, and we'll know whether it's mentolitum or aboniki.
Okay, well, you know, your point about judiciary not being the last hope of the common man. Only yesterday at a forum, Femi Falana SAN, in fact, said the judiciary is now the last hope of the Nigerian bourgeoisie. Oh, well. You seem to agree with him. Rafsanjani, well, let's come back to you. Your quick take on how the Tinubu administration has been faring. Is it gaining momentum or not?
No, to be honest to you, what Tinubu has done is what other president will always do. First, what they perceive as their enemy, they will get rid of them. Secondly, they will bring in those who they believe they can work with. So that's what we have seen so far. But in terms of concrete policy that can, attract foreign investors, in terms of concrete policies that can begin to deal with issues that, affect governance, the government has not yet rolled down those things. And, you can't even roll down some of these policies without public consultation or without at least public input. So I believe it is still too early to begin to assess the government because we haven't seen any policy, put in place dealing with issues of economy drastically, issues, that will deal with the issue of insecurity, issues that will deal with issues of the corruption, of course, issues that will deal with, addressing justice system reform. All these are yet to be put in place. So hopefully, Tinubu is working on them, and we'll wait to see when those things are put in place, to see whether they are going to meet with the aspiration of Nigerians, and also whether they will also meet with the expectation of the international community. But for now, what the Tinubu administration has done is simply to make sure that EFCC chair, who was investigating some of the President Tinubu friends, been asked to stay away, and then of course the CBN, governor, who was seen right from the beginning as a stumbling block to Tinubu realization of his presidential, aspiration, for creating confusion in the in the monetary policy. He also gets rid of him. Of course, the appointment of the service chief is natural. They do that.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Unfortunately, we are completely out of time, but we're really grateful for your insight on the conversation on the table this morning. And of course, Mr. Dele Farotimi as well. Thank you.
So there we have it. In-depth analysis. What is your take on things? How do you see it? We're going to quickly run through something else as we're speaking now. I want you to listen to a plan by the a bill put forward to regulate the practice of Christianity in Nigeria. Sonny Ekwowusi. Let's have a listen to that. Again, keep in mind, these are all just to cover news on things that we... No, actually, yeah, we will do that. We will do that briefly, and then we'll come back to the other ones as well. Let's do that in the meantime. Okay, so let's hear what the bill is. I'm someone who's completely, not religious. It's not something I'm really interested in, but it's worth hearing anyway. I really think that religion is a hindrance in our climb, and until we address it collectively, we're not going to really make any changes. But let's have a listen to what they're saying, and what are your thoughts as well. Please continue to subscribe to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power, and of course, Oduduwa TV Radio 2, and of course, Citizen AY backup channel. Let's proceed.
Lawyer and the chairman, Human and Constitutional Rights Committee of the African Bar Association. You saw him speaking in the particular report. Good to have you here this morning. Now, let's start it off and looking at it closely, because according to the 1999 Constitution as amended, Section 38 speaks to the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion.
Yes.
And the question is, this particular bill, does it violate Section 38
of
the
course, it does violate Section 38 of the 1999 Constitution, because it is something that, and don't forget that Nigeria is a secular state.
Yes.
Okay, the state has no right to interfere in the way religion is practiced. There is a separation between the state and the church. The state cannot interfere in the way churches are run, because these are two different entities. But now we have this bill that's trying to interfere, in the way Christianity is run. It's even going and saying that there's going to be a council in Abuja, National Christian Council for Education, which is now going to prescribe syllabuses for schools at all levels, which means primary school, secondary school, seminaries, universities. So you're going to have Redeemer University, for instance. A council in Abuja is going to say, these are your syllabus. We're seeing this is quite dangerous. Dangerous because, where we are coming from before now, there have been corruption of syllabuses in schools, to be teaching our kids LGBT, masturbation, and all that. I'm a lawyer. At one time, we went to court. Now, these people abroad, because they are putting pressure on African countries to destroy their human capital. So this is not just hearsay or conspiracy theory. I am inside because I go to United Nations. I know what is happening. Now, they are coming with this bill, and this bill obviously is being sponsored from abroad. So you have a council in Abuja where they will not prescribe a syllabus, and that syllabus will contain LGBT and all that. You contain masturbation, because they are targeting our young people who are in school so that to destroy them. South Africa has gone. South Africa in this matter, when I say it's gone, it means that South Africa has legalized LGBT, transgender, and all that. And the United Nations is also involved, United States, and all that. Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States, has gone around 10 African countries. They must legalize the LGBT. Now they are tackling Uganda for the legalizing the LGBT. What we are saying is that We are different. Each country should grow with its own values. We are different. They should leave us alone. We have our culture, we have our own values. We can't interfere in the way they run their country. They should not interfere in the way we make our laws. You are talking about the 10th Assembly and that they should be very careful. Yes, we think they should not only that they should not be rubber stamps National Assembly, but also they should be wary of the kind of law that they pass to make good laws for the people of this country. No? People are suffering in this country. Okay, right now, people can hardly eat and all that. So what we need is good governance. We don't need all these laws that have to do with LGBT and all that. What is all this for? People are hungry, people are tired. They need medical attention, okay? So if these people are abroad, if they want our own good, they should build hospitals. They should take care of our roads, electricity and all that. Or they should, give scholarship for education. But they should not be putting pressure on us to legalize all these things. That's where I'm coming from, because I know. I have been in this for so many years, so I know what is happening. When you were in school, probably you had very good textbooks like Things Fall Apart, Macbeth. Now they have all changed them. Now what they have changed them is sex-related things, you know. They don't have cartoons for babies, children that are under 5 years. What is all this? Now this council is coming, and they are saying they are going to establish a council in Abuja that's going to recommend syllabuses. You know, Christian denominations are different. I'm a Catholic. I'm not going to accept things that is not Catholic. You have Anglican Church, you have Redeemed, you have different churches. So how will a council in Abuja now recommend syllabuses to the seminaries and churches and schools of this people? It's a violation of human rights. As a lawyer, I'm saying that this is not acceptable, and that bill should be dismissed because it lacks merit. They are going to meet in Abuja next week. The people who are sponsoring the bill, they are going ahead because they had a Zoom meeting, and we told them, look, this bill is not acceptable because it's violation of people's rights. Okay? Because I have a right to worship the way I like. You cannot tell me now, okay, start worshiping this way. Don't clap your hand, don't shout. No, it's my right. And if I do anything against the law, arrest me and all that. But don't tell me how to worship, because this is practice that is central to every human being. The right to freedom of, like rightly said, of conscience, freedom of religion, freedom, even privacy. Okay? So this is very, very sad. That because what it means that Nigeria is heading towards like China or the old Soviet Union, where religion or Christianity is undercover. You can practice it undercover because the state has encroached, and you are not seen to be worshiping the way you should worship. So we are saying that this is in bad faith, and democracy is about right of fellow people. I heard you talking about the 10th Assembly, and this is something that presidential democracy that promotes the rights of the people. You know, we all have these rights, basic rights, and nobody should try to violate it because it's called fundamental human rights. One right to freedom of worship, freedom of conscience and all that. And we are in a secular state. The state has no right to prescribe the way you and I should worship.
All right then, so I would like to come in, Mr. Sonny. You know, as a lawyer and a human rights activist, how would you characterize the potential impact of such a bill on the freedom of religion and the rights of Christian believers in Nigeria? And what specific provisions in the bill do you find particularly concerning or problematic from a legal and human rights perspective? Section 7
of the bill describes the functions of this council, and what it says that one of them is to regulate, to collect, to certify of religious instructors, which means pastors, priests, Catholic priests will be certified. You need to have a license in order to practice your religion, which means if you are holding a Christian crusade, say in Lagos, and you don't have a license from this council, they will shut it down. We are saying this is not proper. Okay? That section 7 talks about the functions of this council, you know, saying that they have to collect, certify, train your pastors and your priests. Come on, this is not acceptable because, you have your faith, you worship, you have your pastors, you train your pastors or your priests the way you want. The council in Abuja should not. That's why we are saying that this bill is being sponsored from abroad, like I said earlier, that many NGOs in abroad have been putting pressure on African countries to, legalize terrible things, LGBT and all that. So, and this is one thing they are trying to do, okay, to make sure that we don't live as a people, because they are afraid that we might become a world power. This is not a conspiracy theory. I go to United Nations. I've been involved at meetings, so international. I travel a lot, so I know what is happening. And this is dangerous because it's more important than politics. People think that politics is the first thing. The first thing is culture, and at the heart of culture are values. Okay, you can't even grow a democracy without values. Look at what's happening in Nigeria, because crisis of values. If you have a crisis of values, you can't succeed in democracy. You can't get the democratic dividends we are talking about. And these people are putting pressure on us to destroy all those values that we hold there. And we are saying no, 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 because by the time these things are destroyed, we are finished. That's why I'm saying that it is more important than politics, because people think that economy is the best. No, because this is the most important, your culture and your values. By the time you are destroyed as a person, you can't even be alive to, to be in politics. Well, that's why we're saying that this is very, very important. That's why I've come here today to say, look, we need to be very careful, because it will affect every one of us, whether you are a Christian, you are a Buddhist, you are a traditional religion practice, or internet free thinker. Because by the time they're not giving you a syllabus, how you should think, how you should live your life, it is terrible. I told that they have already corrupted the syllabuses, biology, chemistry textbooks. They are no longer what you, maybe when you went to school. They now put watermark inscription saying that my mother is a harlot. We'll go to court over this. The integrated science that it now has masturbation, it now has how to put on the condom. Even mathematics, they now said, if they want to supplement, they said 40 condom minus 2 condoms. Wait a minute. And these are just for our babies. Boys and girls in JS 1 and 2 are meant to learn this. So we are saying, by the time we wake up, they are going to destroy us. You know what's happening in Europe now? That they don't have people. First of all, they have migration problem. The young people are being destroyed. Why is it that Canada is opening its doors for us to come in? Because they're short of manpower. UK is the same thing, because they are destroyed. So we can't allow this to happen, because Nigeria is a potential world power. Don't forget that if not for bad leadership, Nigeria would not have been in this shape. Nigeria would have been a world power. We have the human resources. We have natural resources. Now these people abroad, okay, I don't want to mention names specifically, they are afraid that we might want them, because they want to destroy our human capital. They want to destroy religion, culture, okay? And these are things that get to us, okay? I when I was growing up, I grew up in a cultural setting. I'm a true Nigerian, so if you destroy that, you have destroyed me. So that's why we're very much concerned and saying, look, the National Assembly should make sure that laws that they pass are good laws that will be for our welfare. Look at the way we are suffering, okay? If they are interested, they should make a law that will protect our lives. You know how many people who are being killed? How many Christians who are being killed? You know this girl who was killed, this is Deborah, was killed in Sokoto till date. No justice for Deborah. So if they want to make a law, they should make a law that protects our lives and property. You know, that is key. That's key now, because you can't, I can't go to my village without, I'm afraid. So first thing is security, okay? Instead of making this law that has to do with the way I worship, the mode of my worship, whether I'm going to, that's not proper. It's going to affect all Christian denominations, Redeemed, Catholic, Anglican, everybody. So they are not giving their universities syllabuses and their seminaries. Imagine carry seminary, like a bigger seminary. We now have a syllabus from a council in Abuja given to them to. Wait a minute, this is terrible.
All right, so let me to come in here.
Yes.
And my question will be, why Christianity?
Yes.
Understanding that there are 3 main recognized religions in Nigeria: Christianity, Islam, and of course, putting in indigenous religion.
Yes.
So the question is,
why Christianity?
Why Christianity?
I mean, this is something, yes, I also asked myself, why Christianity? Because don't forget, this is not the first attack on Christianity. We have had licensing of marriages, Christian marriages. I was also involved in that argument. We also have putting provisions in Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, provisions to gag Christian NGOs. Somebody has gone to court, the lawyer has gone to court, and those sections have been knocked off. So there have been an attack on Christianity. And this is, we have to be very careful because it's equity and fairness, you know. But why not apply, you know, everybody should be on the same playing field, a level playing field. You don't take one religion. We have Islam, we have traditional African religion, we have Buddhists and all that. Why tackle Christianity? Not only tackling the way Christianity is being operated now, they're also killing Christians in this country, you know. The case of, the Borough and all that. And many Catholic priests have been killed. So what you are saying is that, look, don't take exception. Democracy has made a level playing ground for all of us. It's equity, okay? What is good for the Ganda, how do they put it again?
What is good for the
Ganda. So level playing field for every one of us. And don't discriminate against anybody, because discrimination is also unconstitutional, section 42 of the Constitution. So let live. Life is let and let live. That's my concern here as a lawyer. Life is let and let live. And what applies to A should apply to B. That is secular state. That is democracy. Don't target one religion and say this religion, if you want to practice your faith, because what they are saying, the background for this bill is saying that they are not happy the way some Pentecostals preach, you know, that they are a little bit radical and they are a little bit, but they are not the only one that preach like that, you know. Other religions also make that kind of thing. So why take these people? In any case, if they offend any law, arrest them, take them to court, okay? Let justice be done. I'm not saying that people should be spared. If you believe that somebody in trying to practice Christianity offends the law, let the law take its course.
Okay.
What we am against is that you don't tell me the modality and the way I should worship, because that belongs to me and my God. And you don't give me a syllabus from Abuja and say, by now your school should be teaching these children so and so.
Okay. I would like to come in here, Mr. Somi, because we don't have a lot of time left.
Yes.
Now, you've spoken about the broader trends and patterns that you've observed in recent times, even in international bodies. But before you go, I want us to talk about the strategies that you believe the CSOs and organizations that stakeholders should undertake in response to protect the rights of Christians going forward.
This is bigger what you're doing. Just speaking out, you know. And next week, when they're having this summit in Abuja, some bishops will be there, including Bishop Kuka. They're all going to be in Abuja to try to ask questions, what is happening here. So advocacy is one, because nobody should take to violence. No, it's just advocacy to make our views felt that we are making now, and also to let the Christian pastors or whatever to come out and say, look, this is not acceptable, okay? There should be a dialogue. And before you do anything, there was no prior dialogue before this bill came out. You have dialogue and say, look, I'm looking at something, is it going to be stable for you? Don't just come out with something and then just want everybody to adopt. So I think we need to dialogue more, because that's what democracy is all about. Our representatives should assess our will. They should do, they are representing us, They are not running their business.
Of course.
They are our representatives in government, so they should promote our interests. They are not running their business. They are not doing us a favor, okay? So they are representing you and I, and we should demand that they should represent us well. That is how democracy started in Greece. Representative democracy, people who represent us and promote our aspirations and our interests. And when there's a conflict between that, we should try to say no, because the people are suffering in democracy. Okay? The leaders are not the sovereigns. We are the sovereigns. The people are the sovereigns. And we should demand for a better thing in legislation, no? And you have your representative, you should know the name of your senator from your senatorial zone. I should know the name. And if he's not doing well, I'll say, look, please, what is happening here? So it's about representation, good representation. That's what democracy is all about. So, advocacy, okay? Telling them, look, the proper thing as we are doing now, so that the laws that they make should be good laws. Okay? I also make that in the incorporation of bills, there are bills that are incorporated into our body law. They should also incorporate good laws. You don't incorporate laws that have to do with LGBT and all that. These are foreign things. Somebody cannot stay in New York or Washington, D.C. and tell me how to make laws. We are different. It's a different country. I cannot, or our president cannot tell U.S. how they should pass their laws. You know? So they should not interfere in the way they pass their law. The way that they are not saying that Uganda, because they have passed anti-gay law, they are going to be denied the American visa. Wait a minute. This is the entire affairs, and they have passed anti-gay law. Respect it, because they have gotten their independence. They are sovereign. They say, well, Nigeria is a sovereign country. We have our independence. So we should make law that is in line with our traditional, religious, philosophical aspiration as a people. Not just to copy what is done abroad. Okay? We are different people altogether.
All right, I want to say anything.
Yes, very much like the man said, we are different set of people completely. Let us just pull away from that, and I'll be bringing you something else from channels I wanted to really look at as well. We're going to cover a wide range of issues. This is coming back in just give me a second. I want you to listen to this from channels news, and it is really it's a range of news on channels that is really something I think we'll all be looking at and considering. So with that said, let us have a listen to this, just to give us a bit of a heads up on a range of things, including the election itself. Whether or not you support or agree with the elections, this is what is really happening as well. So let's listen to that as well. Here we go.
Plus, Governor of Bayelsa State, Joya Dere, advocates for amendments of Petroleum Industry Act to address the flaws in the legislation. Warm welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. We begin with President Bola Tinubu, who arrived at the Paris summit, where he's expected to sign a global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on the priority list for support and also investment following the devastating impact of climate change, energy crisis, and COVID-19. When he arrived, he was greeted and received by French Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna. According to the Special Advisor to the President on Special Duties, Communication and Strategy, Mr. Dele Farotimi, no less than 4 foreign leaders have requested to meet with the President during the summit organized by President Emmanuel Macron. Among the countries expressing interest to expand economic cooperation with Nigeria are France, the United States, and Switzerland. He also adds that the President wants to network with international finance corporations and countries that would facilitate direct foreign investment into Nigeria.
The President wants to network with international finance corporations, institutions, countries that are well-heeled, that would facilitate or that could facilitate direct foreign investment into Nigeria. Don't forget that Mr. President has taken some very bold steps in the area of economy, in the area of social engineering in the last 3 weeks. Mr. President's policies in the last 3 weeks really have encouraged these foreign nations and investors to become more interested in the affairs of Nigeria, in shoring up the economy of Nigeria. So a lot of them are quite interested. So many of them have even indicated interest to meet with Mr. President in this trip. Just upstairs now, we were, having a meeting with the President on, structuring some of these meetings with heads of states. At the last count, about 3-4 different heads of states of developed countries have indicated willingness to meet with him, have a chat with him, and explore areas of cooperation on the economy, on agriculture, on other areas that are salient to the development of Nigeria's economy.
We'll bring you more about that summit taking place in France. But staying with international engagements with Nigeria, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has called for a stronger relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom, given the long-standing historical antecedents, business activities, and shared interests between the two countries. He also advocated the creation of a Nigeria-UK binational commission to drive future engagements. The new British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Montgomery, also used the opportunity to clarify on the issue of granting UK student visas to Nigerians, stating that managing visitor numbers and migration to the UK is a responsible thing to do. He was speaking with State House correspondents after a closed-door meeting yesterday with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the State House.
That issue was not raised in the meeting just now, but I would like to put the media debate about this in wider context. So last year, for example, the UK granted 3 million new visas, of which 325,000 of those visas were to the UK, for between Nigeria and UK. So Nigerian visitors constitute over 10% of the people coming to London and the UK. On the issue of student visas, I'd also just like to provide the context that the number of Nigerian students coming to the UK has increased fivefold in the last 3 years. It's a fantastic success story for our universities, and we're really delighted that so many Nigerians are coming to the UK. The issue about restrictions on people bringing dependents, that's partly because not just from Nigeria, but from many parts of the world, many more students are trying to bring their dependents with them. And I think that there are two issues here. The first is it's not always possible to find the housing and services to meet all the needs of all our existing student population. And secondly, I think reasonable people would accept that we have to manage our visitor numbers, and then we have to manage migration in and out of the UK, just as the Nigerian government does for your own borders.
And while many Nigerians may understand the positive long-term impact of the removal of fuel subsidy and the single currency exchange regime, they still worry that the infrastructure and policies required to ensure the success of the plans are still lacking. However, the newly inaugurated National Economic Council has been mandated to work out palliatives, but how well to cushion the impact of fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians. Our State House correspondent Kayla Migwa has more.
With an inflation rate of 22.41%, a debt profile hitting 77 trillion naira, and an unemployment rate expected to hit 40.6% this year. These men seated here at the council chambers of the State House in Abuja have an enormous task ahead of them. They make up the National Economic Council, headed by the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. The National Economic Council, or NEC, established by Section 153, subsection 1, and paragraphs 18 and 19, Part 1 of the third schedule of the provisions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, is headed by the Vice President and has the 36 state governors, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and other co-opted government officials as members. The National Economic Council meets once a month and is tasked with advising the President concerning the economic affairs of the Federation and measures necessary for the coordination of the economic planning efforts or economic programs of the various governments of the Federation.
National Economic Council is hereby inaugurated.
As President Bola Tinubu inaugurates the Council, he's clear on their marching orders.
We must harness the growth potential of Nigeria and bring about serious development to bring us from a potential nation to a pragmatic economic development in a rapid manner.
One of the main deliberations on the first NEC meeting is the issue of palliatives for Nigerians to cushion the impact of the removal of fuel subsidy, a decision that has been criticized by organized labor, who believe palliatives should have been in place before the subsidy removal. Negotiations are still underway. For the Nigerian, these are hard times. Transporters in Abuja's popular Utako Motor Park explain their ordeal.
Going to Kano alone, vehicle will buy fuel of 60,000 naira. Kaduna alone, driver will now go and come back. A fuel of go and come, 60,000. Kano Kuma, if you want to go and come, that's 120,000. So when you look at the money, you can see the driver will collect money from the passenger, and the passengers too are complaining.
Another policy by the Tinubu administration causing ripples in the polity is a single forex exchange policy.
I can say that from...
Chris is an importer of lace materials. He sells his wares at the Garaki International Market. He doesn't see how the policy will benefit him unless Nigeria begins to produce and sell what he sells.
Most of the things we have in these shops are imported, you know, but if we start producing some of these things in this country, it will help the economy to grow, because most of the dollars we try to send out to get most of the things we consume in the country will reduce.
A financial expert, Chijoke Kechiku, is concerned about the non-inclusion of the private sector in the National Economic Council for a more balanced outlook of the state of the economy. He doesn't believe that the way of palliatives for the Nigerian people is the best approach. He believes the council should investigate revenue generation and target inflation triggers.
What are those drivers of our inflation rate? What are those things that are making it to grow? We have to identify them, and there are many of them that we already know about. The exchange rate is one of them. The insecurity is another. The cost of electricity and cost of petroleum product is another.
Other experts believe particular sectors of the economy are in dire straits and need the immediate attention of the National Economic Council, particularly the need for mass transport vehicles powered by compressed natural gas and uniting against corruption.
They can jointly take a vow to minimize the money which they are misappropriating and mismanaging at the state level, because they are. Compressed natural gas is still under 200 or 150 naira per litre or thereabout, and it can provide cheap transport.
Meanwhile, the National Economic Council at its very first meeting is on board with the production of CNG mass transit buses. Council members also agreed that palliatives to cushion the impact of the fuel subsidy removal are necessary.
They gave us a scenario recommending that there should be an adjustment, consequential adjustment, estimated at 702 billion to 919 million 8 naira as part of the allowances that should be given as petroleum allowance to all workers, and as well as a 23 or to 45 billion monthly offer to cushion the effect to workers.
What should these palliatives be? Will they be distributed fairly? Is the word palliative a trigger to the Nigerian who's been hearing about palliatives for years and never received any? In a few weeks, the National Economic Council will be clear on what direction they will be going in this regard. Kayla Magwa, Channels Television News.
Well, a political economist, Ayodeji Oluboge, joins me now for more on especially the president's program in France. Welcome to the program. I'd like to begin, and this is to get your thoughts first on the steps we're seeing the president has taken concerning the economy. Some people have referred to it as bold. Others have said it's hard times that's facing Nigerians under the President Tinubu administration.
President Tinubu's visit to France is that's the first visit you will realize, and his visit to the meeting for the Global Financial Summit is to ensure that they can shore up Nigerian foreign exchange. He's gone there to network with other international finance corporation, and then this will complement his the financial policies that he has. He's been president for almost 3 weeks now, and there are various policies that he has made that is looking positive. Then his visit will improve foreign direct investments. There will be FDIs, and when the FDIs come in, they will inject fresh capital into the economy, and this will help in building and complement what domestic policies that Tinubu have been doing. This will complement them.
Well, Mr. Yalawa, it seems that you agree that, these are bold steps the president is taking and making, but the harsh reality is that there are hard times facing Nigerians at the moment, and this is also following the policies or steps that he has taken. How does he plan to address this? And that's the question a number of people are asking.
Well, in policies, we have the policies that the benefits are short-term, some are long-term. For what he's doing now by going to France for the financial meeting is to ensure that he work on the long-term policies. In as much as in the short-term, people might feel that, what he's doing, they are not really benefiting. But let's just wait another 1 year. We'll be reaping the benefits of the policies that he is making, because the policies are positive and will drive the economy in the nearest future. When I'm saying long-term is not, I'm not saying 5 years. In the less than 1 year, we're benefiting the benefits of most of these policies that he's making now.
Are there any particular sectors or industries that you expect will receive maybe additional attention, investment under this government?
I don't get that.
Do you think that there are perhaps additional areas, sectors that will receive some sort of additional attention under this government? Attention, more investment?
Yes. Funny thing about before the last administration, before they ended, we've been hearing issues on borrowing. But from what Tinubu is doing, what President Tinubu is doing is, it's not that we will not borrow, but people will willingly bring their money to Nigeria. And once there's foreign direct investment, that shows that our foreign exchange will show up, because there will be more dollar inflow, there are more funds from abroad. The only reason, and then when there is less insecurity, there's less pressure on the economy, people that have cash in other economy will bring it to Nigeria, because business is all about making money. This is where they can double their money. And while they are bringing their investment here, as they are doubling their money, they are helping and growing our economy.
Are very optimistic about this visit. We'd like to thank you for shedding more light on the summit and the expectations for Nigerians. Many thanks, political economist
Ayodeji Olugboge. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
In the meantime, the Presidential Election Petition Court is continuing hearing in the petition of the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, challenging the victory of President Bola Tinubu. The party is expected to call as many witnesses as possible, since it will close its case today. That is ongoing at the moment. So far, the PDP has called 25 witnesses, leaving an outstanding 75. Counsel to the party, Chris Uche, says he will try to make it a round figure of 30, while he tendered documents saying that it will take the place of the remaining witnesses. Appearances, we understand, are ongoing. We're going on a break now. When we return, we have more political stories. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, says it is suing President Bola Tinubu's administration over the contentious proposed pay rise for top government officials. SERAP announced this in a tweet on the microblogging site Twitter. It reads in part, "We're suing the Tinubu administration over its outrageous and illegal 114% increase in the salaries of the president, vice president, state governors and lawmakers, while over 133 million Nigerians live in extreme poverty." Now, recall that the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission had recommended an increase in the basic salaries of those holding judicial and political office. However, it also reports that these are also reports that they have denied. They said that they did not make that approval. They haven't received an approval for the increment of salaries of political office holders, judicial and public office holders by 114%. They said that President Tinubu has not given approval for that. The salary increment remark was made by a federal commissioner of the commission representing the RMAFC chairman at the presentation of the reports of the reviewed remuneration package to the Kebbi State governor in Kebbi State. Well, to talk more about this, Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director at SEREP, joins me now virtually. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here.
Great to have you. So is SEREP threatening to sue, or have you decided to sue as a matter of fact? Have you confirmed that the increase will go ahead?
Of course, Millicent, we will go ahead with this lawsuit. The only thing that can stop this now, if the legality prevails and the federal government stops and does not apply this new recommendation by the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation of Fiscal Commission, because as it is still a recommendation by the Revenue Mobilization and Allocation of Fiscal Commission. If this is not implemented, like we've asked and called on the government not to do, then there will be no need for litigation. But if government goes ahead to do what we've seen as something that is not only manifestly unlawful, given the provisions of the Constitution, and also the reality of our economy, and also in every moral sense, then we will go ahead to institute a public interest litigation to compel the government to act in the best of interest of Nigerians as they are sworn in the various sort of offices and even the relevant laws.
One wonders, that what could have informed the decision of the commission, and that is to raise the salaries to such a percentage. But, you mentioned the economic realities, and this is a hike that affects everyone, including the politicians. So when we look at it, what the NLC is asking for, what the TUC is asking for, what maybe the private sector also wants, doesn't everyone deserve a salary increase at this stage?
I really do not see any justification for the review by way of increase. If at all there's going to be a review, it has to be downward, and these have been made clear by Nigerians and even by SEREP to the Revenue Allocation and Mobilization Fiscal Commission over the years. So it is not in doubt that the Commission has the powers to review salaries and allowances of political office holders and judicial officers, but the same Constitution that is the second schedule that gives the RAMFAC these duties also compels RAMFAC to do other things, which includes that they must consider the economy, the income of Nigeria. And looking at the context, the realities that we are presently, rising inflation, rising employment, the recent removal of subsidies, the high rate of corruption and the high debt profile of the country, these cannot be the right time to increase by way of review the allowances of political office holders. That of judicial officers is most welcome. That is consistent with the advocacy that SEREP had put up over the years. And we do have a case pending in the court where we are seeking an order to compel the government to increase the salaries and allowances of judicial officers, which hasn't been done since 2007. But that is a totally different thing from that of political office holders, which in this instance would mean the president, the vice president, the governors and their deputy. It is not rational. And when you understand the context of the earnings of these political office holders, you would understand that an increase in the allowances and salaries is not necessary at all. The president and governors, they get what is called security votes, which is even has no, and I'm giving an example here, which has no basis in law, and it runs to millions of naira every year. And we're talking about pension laws also, that accrues to both the president and the vice president, even the governors and the deputies, when they do leave office. This again amounts to millions of naira that accrues to these individuals every year. So there is no justification at all for RAMFAC to have proposed this review and for the president to accept this review. It would not be consistent with the oath of office of the president, who has sworn to use power for the interest of Nigerians and to ensure that everything it does in the best interest and welfare of Nigerians. It is going to be very hard to justify this increase, either in terms of law, morality, or even in the economic sense.
We'll continue to look at, the decisions that they make as it affects Nigerians. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, the Deputy Director at SEREP. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to other stories. The civil society group under the aegis Sincere Concern Organisation is giving the Governor of Imo State 1 month to implement fully the white paper report on the Commission of Inquiry on Contract Awards, looting of Imo assets and recovery of stolen property. It says it's worth 130 billion naira during the tenure of former Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha. Addressing a press conference in Owerri, the state capital, the representative of the group says it's unfortunate that those that allegedly looted the assets and money of the state are still walking free and even planning to return to power by proxy. The Governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Doye Diri, has advocated for an amendment of the Petroleum Industry Act in order to address the flaws in the legislation. Governor Diri said the review would go a long way in tackling the ongoing crisis between oil companies and their host communities. Describing the act as a time bomb, the governor opined that since the country operates a federal system, it is an aberration for the federal governments to deal directly with oil-producing communities while excluding the states and the local governments.
We are happy that at least we have a Petroleum Industry Act that will now guide the industry. However, we have seen a lot of flaws even before the act was assented to. And at that point, I referred to that act as a time bomb. That after that act has been assented to, we will still have further very serious crisis between the oil-producing communities and the oil companies, and by extension, the government. And one of such indications is that the federal government in that act has successfully excluded the state governments and the local governments, and they are dealing directly with the communities. And just recently, we have started seeing crisis between the communities and the oil companies about signing of MOUs and who should speak on behalf of the communities.
Into other stories now. Former President Goodluck Jonathan arrived Freetown, Sierra Leone's capital, ahead of the country's general election scheduled for June 24. The former president is leading the West African Elders Forum. In a statement by his communications officer, Wealth Ominabo, the delegation also includes Kadre Godrego, former Burkinabe Prime Minister, a wartime president of the Economic Community of West African States. He said the forum, through the visit, aims to encourage and support a peaceful democratic transition in Sierra Leone. Also, Governor Babatunde Sanwo-Olu on Wednesday received an audience his Abia State counterpart, Alex Otti, at the State House in Marina. And this was made known by the governor through a statement shared on his Twitter handle. The reason for the meeting was not known, but Governor Sanwo-Olu reveals that he had a productive discussion with Mr. Otti of the Labour Party regarding the growth and development of Abia State and also Lagos State. You've been served lunch this hour. Thank you.
So thank you very much for watching. You've been watching Season Auwal, the platform where we speak to 2 hours, covering a range of issues from Arise News channel, from Channels News, and my own views is that there's a lot of work for us all to do. We need to be active in participants in our governance, and let's continue to encourage our people in the local level to hold their governance to account. We need to be ensuring that we question them under the monthly allocation, because that's our right, and to be able to know how much is spent on our local government and be active participants in our governance. Without that, nothing will change. So I hold on to that view firmly. Just to reiterate that view one more time, of course, let us show you this here to remind us that our active participation in our governance is of immense importance to us. So that's the final view I'd like you to leave you with on this broadcast. I'll be back later on with more updates. We need active participation in our governance to hold our governance to account at local, state and federal level. will need to be participating on a daily basis. That is the only way, or else we will continue to suffer. So thank you for watching. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back with further updates later on. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant Saturday.